Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions. This is the story of how I quietly deleted myself from my wife's life and left her standing in the ruins she never noticed she built. It started with a salad. Not metaphorically, literally. A Caesar salad. No croutons. Dressing on the side. I stared at it for 15 minutes while the dog snored under the table. I wasn't hungry. I just wanted to time it perfectly. The front door opened at exactly 10:47 p.m. I knew it would. Her dinners with her boss, Rex, were predictable now. She never texted me from them. She'd come back humming the same out-of-tune jazz she hated 6 months ago. The perfume was new. The confidence wasn't. She walked in laughing into her phone, heels clicking across the wood floor like they owned it. She didn't even look up. That's when it hit her. No photos on the wall. No keys on the hook. No code in the hallway. No dog leash by the door. I heard her stop walking. Like the absence of me created a pressure drop in the air. Emory, she called. The phone call ended. Where's Jasper? The silence must have sounded louder than any answer. She ran from room to room. Closet? Half empty. Kitchen? Mug gone. My chair missing. She opened the fridge. Even the half-eaten cheesecake I'd been saving was gone. She wasn't crying. Not yet. Just confused. Stumbling like someone who lost their glasses in their own house. I watched it all from the baby cam I secretly reinstalled 2 days ago, streaming straight to my laptop. Her panic was theater. I'd seen it before. When she got caught lying about where she was last weekend. When I found the second toothbrush in her car, and she said it was her coworker's niece. When she left lipstick-stained napkins in our laundry, twice. I never confronted her. I knew I wouldn't win. So instead, I made a different plan. One night, while she was out brainstorming over dinner, I packed my life into 6 boxes and 2 suitcases. I moved out of my own marriage like it was a bad Airbnb. I didn't even slam the door. And I left her one thing. On the coffee table, an empty picture frame. And inside it, a printed screenshot of her smiling at Rex. His hand was on her knee. The restaurant's logo was behind them. It was from her co-worker's Instagram. Public. She had no idea I'd ever seen it. Underneath the photo was a post-it. I took what was mine, including my self-respect. She sat on the floor and stared at it for over 20 minutes. I know because I watched. And I didn't feel a thing. She sat in the middle of the living room like a statue, framed by the dim glow of the hallway light. For the first time in years, she wasn't scrolling through her phone or barking into it. She wasn't multitasking or laughing at something Rex said. She was still, like silence had finally caught up with her. And me? I was 300 miles away, sitting in a motel with a broken vending machine and a dog who finally slept without whimpering at night. I watched her through the live feed, not out of spite, but out of disbelief. I wanted to see if she'd cry. She didn't. Not for the first hour, anyway. Instead, she started talking to herself, whispering, asking, why would he? Over and over, like she was the one blindsided. That's what got me. That was the part that made my chest hurt. Not the betrayal, not even the image of her with Rex, but her absolute shock that I'd finally done something for myself. Like it never once crossed her mind that I could leave. I always folded, always forgave. When she told her mother I was too sensitive to handle real stress, I laughed it off. When she forgot our anniversary and said, well, we've had enough of them, I cooked dinner anyway. I let her reduce me to background noise in my own life. But it wasn't just about Rex. Not really. It was about how she looked at me less and less, and only noticed when I wasn't where she expected me to be. It was the way she never asked how my day was, because mine was always the same, while hers was filled with bold ideas and candlelit dinners disguised as campaign discussions. What broke me wasn't the affair. It was the moment I realized she didn't even feel guilty. That somewhere along the way, she rewrote the story to make me the extra. The man who wouldn't understand her ambition. The man who stayed home in his slippers and watched documentaries while she sparkled under city lights in dresses I never saw her wear twice. So I left. I didn't shout. I didn't burn anything down. I didn't make her beg. I just vanished. And now, as she sat on the couch where we once cuddled watching bad horror movies, holding a photo of her with another man, I wondered if she'd finally realize what it meant to be truly alone. But I wasn't done yet. She hadn't found the second note. Not yet. She found the second note the next morning. I knew she would. It was taped under the ceramic sugar jar, the one she always tilted when making her French press coffee. Predictable. That's what made this all so clean. I knew every step of her routine better than she did. The moment the note slipped loose and fluttered to the counter, she just stood there staring at it like it was radioactive. She didn't open it right away. She walked circles around it like it was a bomb. Then, finally, with one trembling finger, she peeled it open and read, "I stopped asking you to love me the moment I realized you didn't even like me." That line wasn't for drama. It was the truth, the rawest one I had. There's a moment in a relationship that nobody talks about, not the fights, not the cheating, not even the lying. It's that moment when you look into the eyes of someone who once laughed at your dumbest jokes and see nothing. Not hate, not affection, just indifference. That moment breaks you quietly, like frostbite. You don't even feel it until something stops working. I know exactly when it happened. 2 months ago, she came back from dinner with Rex, cheeks flushed, smelling of a perfume I hadn't bought her. She dropped her heels by the door, looked right past me, and said, "You forgot to take the trash out again." That was it. No hello. No, how was your night? Just a command. As if my only purpose was to keep the floors clean and the house quiet. So I started listening more carefully, reading between the sighs. I wasn't losing her to Rex. I'd lost her to someone far worse. The version of herself who decided I was disposable. And worse yet, she didn't even tell me. She let me rot quietly while she upgraded her life around me. New clothes, new vocabulary, new ambitions. And Rex? He was just the symptom, not the disease. Back in the motel, Jasper nudged his head into my lap like he was checking if I was okay. I wasn't. But I was free. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for her to come home. I wasn't hoping for some leftover affection to fall into my hands like crumbs. But Kendra had one more surprise coming. I didn't just leave her house empty. I left her life wide open. And someone was about to walk in. Kendra didn't know I'd spoken to her mother the night before I left. Or that her mother had said, in the coldest tone imaginable, "Maybe it's finally time." That sentence echoed in my head as I packed the last of my clothes. I wasn't expecting her to take my side. I just didn't expect her to sound so unsurprised. She didn't even ask me what Kendra had done. She simply asked where I would go and if I needed help moving my boxes. That's when I realized even her own mother knew what I hadn't been willing to admit for years. I was never the main character in Kendra's life. I was the backdrop, the wallpaper. Back at the house, Kendra was starting to unravel. The baby cam's motion sensor pinged my phone at 3:13 a.m. I tapped into the feed and found her standing in the middle of the kitchen, barefoot, holding the empty frame I'd left on the table. Her hands were shaking. It looked like she had tried to sleep, but couldn't. I watched her walk through every room, as if she were hunting for clues. She opened the laundry hamper, pulled open drawers. She even checked the crawl space under the stairs. Maybe she thought I'd be hiding there, ready to jump out and say, "Just kidding. I only wanted your attention." But I wasn't coming back. That was the point. I didn't want her apology. I didn't even want her regret. I wanted her to feel what I'd been choking on for the past 2 years, the absence of care. At noon, her best friend Bree arrived. I saw her hug Kendra tightly, whisper something, and then glance around the house like she expected to see signs of violence. Kendra showed her the notes. Bree read them, then sat down and cried harder than Kendra did. Maybe she knew, or maybe she saw it coming too. At one point, she mouthed the words, "You never told me it got this bad." Here's the twist. Bree was the one who warned me last year. She pulled me aside after Kendra's birthday dinner and said, "She's drifting, Emory. I don't think she knows how far." I thought Bree was exaggerating. I told her we were just going through a phase. But maybe I was the one drifting, and she just let go of the rope first. I shut off the feed. For good this time. I'd seen enough. Now it was time for her to see something. Something I left behind. Something she'd never expect. Kendra always said I was too sentimental. She'd roll her eyes when I saved handwritten cards or tagged her in memories from 8 years ago. "You live in the past, Emory," she once snapped. "Maybe that's why you're always disappointed." But the irony is, she was the one who couldn't let go of appearances. And what I left behind wasn't sentimental at all. It was surgical, cold, calculated. Something she'd never associate with me. The package arrived exactly 48 hours after I disappeared. I timed it. Scheduled the drop before I even packed my first box. Delivered straight to her office, with no sender information. She'd open it at her desk, probably between meaningless calls and whatever fake laugh banter she was exchanging with Rex. Inside, Neatly organized in a leather binder were 12 printed screenshots, each one a timestamp, a location, a conversation. See, I didn't hire a private investigator. I didn't need to. I used the apps she forgot were still linked to our shared account. Her calendar sync, her rideshare logs, her social media backup folder. She never logged out of anything. I was the one who set up her passwords years ago, thinking I was being helpful. Turns out, I was building the blueprint for her betrayal. She'd see the lift drop-off at Rex's condo, the restaurant receipts that didn't match the company credit card, the blurry, but unmistakable, photo from his balcony, where she stood barefoot holding a wine glass and wearing a robe. Not mine. At the end of the binder, I included a typed letter. It wasn't angry. It wasn't even long. Just one paragraph. The last line read, "You made me feel invisible, so I returned the favor. Let's see how well you handle being watched." There was no signature, just an empty page that followed. I never wanted revenge. That's not what this was. I didn't want her fired. I didn't even want her ashamed. What I wanted was silence. The kind of silence that rots under polished smiles. The kind that makes every word feel like it might crumble. And I wanted her to sit in that silence. Alone. Just like I did. I didn't expect her to call. But she did. 5 times in a row. Straight to voicemail, every time. Her messages were bizarre. Fractured sentences filled with confusion and trembling panic. Like she couldn't decide whether she was furious or heartbroken. The 5th voicemail was the only one I listened to in full. Her voice cracked when she said, "Emory, what is this? Why are you doing this? Just talk to me, please." And for a moment, I felt that familiar pull. The need to fix things. To soften. But it passed. Because I knew what that plea really meant. It didn't mean she missed me. It meant she lost control. What she hadn't figured out yet, what I never dared tell her face to face, was that I didn't leave because she cheated. I left because she became someone who could. Someone who looked me in the eye and lied with the same mouth she used to tell me I was her safe place. That kind of transformation doesn't happen overnight. It builds in layers, and I watched it happen while convincing myself it wasn't real. But it was real. And now, so was the fallout. Later that day, Bree messaged me. Not with anger, but something worse, disappointment. "She's a wreck," she wrote. "She's unraveling. Are you really just going to stay gone?" I stared at that text for 10 minutes. Then I wrote back. I didn't disappear. I just stopped pretending I was still seen. What I didn't tell Bree was that Kendra's company was spiraling too. Rex had been under quiet investigation for months, something I discovered entirely by accident through a friend of mine who used to work in their legal department. I didn't report him, but I didn't need to. Kendra's name had been tagged in calendar invites and client dinners that broke HR policy. And once my anonymous binder landed on her desk, well, let's just say dots started connecting without my help. She thought she was untouchable, that her lies were buried beneath corporate buzzwords and candlelit risottos. But image can only cover so much when truth starts leaking through the cracks. And now, not only had she lost me, but she was beginning to lose the carefully curated life she built on top of me. What would she cling to when the foundation collapsed? Because I had a feeling the next thing to fall was Rex. Rex's name vanished from her LinkedIn 2 days later. No goodbye post. No new chapter begins. Just silence. The kind that stinks of scandal. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. Truthfully, I felt nothing. Not satisfaction. Not justice. Just a kind of muted relief that reality was finally catching up to her. The same reality I'd been drowning in while she dined under soft lights and told herself none of it mattered as long as no one said it out loud. But that's the thing about secrets. They're never still. They breathe. And eventually, they scream. I'd rented a quiet studio above a bakery 2 towns over. Every morning smelled like cinnamon and burnt sugar, and for the first time in years, I slept through the night. Jasper adjusted faster than I did. He stopped waiting at the door. He stopped whimpering when the phone buzzed. I envied him. His loyalty hadn't been weaponized. His instincts hadn't been ridiculed. One morning, as I poured coffee into a chipped mug I found at a thrift shop, I got a new message. Not from Kendra. From someone I hadn't expected, my old friend Malcolm. We hadn't talked much since the wedding. He and Kendra never really clicked, and slowly, like most things in my life, I let the friendship drift. But his message was simple. I saw what you did. You okay? That one line hit me harder than any voicemail from Kendra ever could. Not because it was dramatic, but because it noticed me. I told him the truth. That I wasn't okay, but I was better than I had been. That leaving wasn't victory, it was surgery. Necessary, painful, and slow to heal. A few hours later, Malcolm sent me a screenshot. A post from Kendra's private Instagram, which I was surprised he could still access. No caption, just a blurry picture of the empty living room. My chair missing, the wall bare, and in the center, the same frame I'd left behind, now broken on the floor. She'd posted it, quietly, no comments allowed. But the message was clear. She knew she wasn't the victim. Not anymore. And for once, she didn't try to fake it. I used to think closure came in one big moment. A confrontation, a scream, a door slamming. But real closure is quiet. It happens on an ordinary Tuesday morning when you look in the mirror and realize you don't need to ask why anymore. You just let it be. Kendra never tried to call again. Maybe she understood. Maybe the version of herself that could justify everything finally stopped talking. Either way, I didn't need answers from her anymore. I'd spent too many years trying to decode half-truths, waiting for some version of honesty that would make the betrayal easier to digest. But it never comes that way. You heal when you stop waiting for an apology and start building something for yourself instead. Last week, I started volunteering at a local library. Small thing, I know, but it gives my days shape. I even hosted a poetry night, something I never told Kendra I liked because I knew she'd roll her eyes. And Jasper? He's thriving. Makes friends faster than I do. We go for walks at dusk, and sometimes I catch myself smiling at nothing. Just the air, the sky, the ridiculous freedom of it all. Malcolm and I reconnected. He dropped by the other day with takeout and a bottle of wine. We didn't talk about Kendra. We talked about college, about sci-fi movies, about starting over. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was dragging my sadness around like luggage. I felt light, unburdened. There's still a long way to go. Healing isn't linear. Some mornings still carry shadows. But now, when I think about my past, it doesn't ache the way it used to. It just reminds me how far I've come. And maybe that's the best ending I could have asked for. Not revenge, not pity, just peace. Thanks for sticking with me through this story. If you've ever gone through something that made you question your worth, know this: walking away isn't weakness. Sometimes, it's the bravest thing you'll ever do. If you made it this far, drop a comment below and share an event in history that taught people the importance of letting go. Something that changed everything by simply ending. You've been watching Reddit Confessions. Until next time, stay true to yourself.